The Maruti Suzuki Swift is one of the most iconic cars in the Indian market. It was launched about 15 years ago and it made a lot of waves. It was something that Maruti Suzuki had never done before. They brought a car that was not only practical but very fun to drive as well. It was also high in quality and it looked unlike anything ever designed before. With us today is the new facelift of the Maruti Suzuki Swift. It's not a brand new generation, and that means there are only small minor changes. You can start by the design. It looks almost identical. There are only two differences now. The first one and the biggest change on the outside is of course the new grille, as it also gets a nice chrome slat down the middle. Then of course you have the option of getting the dual tone colors. Other than that, the car is identical in the way it looks. Now there are also a few changes on the inside, but the biggest change, however, is the new 1.2-liter dual jet engine. So let's get inside and see what the differences are. Now when you get inside the new Swift, everything is pretty much identical to the earlier version. The dashboard does have a few new highlights on it, and I have to say I really do love the instrumentation on the Swift. These nice round dials with the red highlights looks very nice and sporty. Even the steering wheel, for that matter, feels very good in my hands. Now this car also gets two new features, and that is cruise control and auto start stop. Both are very essential in today's age because technology is a factor when people buy their cars now. But other than that, the Swift doesn't have any major changes. It still has a nice center console. It comes with SmartPlay Studio, which also allows you to do different functions. But overall, everything is identical. I do love the seats also. It's very comfortable in the Swift, and the seats offer very nice support. The new version also gets new fabrics and upholstery, but more or less everything is exactly the same in this car. It feels very comfortable. It's nice to drive in the city, and it offers a very relaxed driving experience. The biggest change now, as I mentioned, is the dual jet 1.2-liter petrol engine. Now what that essentially means is that this dual jet now offers two injectors in each cylinder. So this is a 1.2-liter petrol engine with 4 cylinders, and now it has 2 fuel injectors in each cylinder. So that essentially makes the fuel efficiency better and also offers a little bit more power. That's why this model now has 90 horsepower instead of the previous 83. Now that doesn't sound like the biggest change, but it definitely can be felt. The engine also gets a wider torque curve now, so you get much better acceleration power when the revs are a little lower. So if you're driving in city traffic and you want to make overtaking maneuvers, you really do have a very nice boost of acceleration that can be felt, and that's very nice. It's a very big improvement, I have to say. But the only problem for me is that I'm driving the AMT version. I would have preferred to have had the manual. Both are 5 speeds, but the AMT really isn't the most engaging. It takes its sweet time to make the correct gear changes. But overall, if you're driving this car in a very relaxed manner, there's no problem whatsoever. But if you want to push this car hard and you want to drive fast and more aggressively, then the AMT really isn't the best option for you. I would suggest you go for the 5-speed manual. In fact, today I was hoping to have the 5-speed manual because I haven't driven a manual in a very long time. But still, this car really feels nice on the road. It's very pliant, and the new engine also is super smooth. It's very refined. In fact, when I was sitting and idling the car, it only idles at about 600 RPM, and that's pretty low, and you could barely even hear the engine sound. So it's a very, very smooth engine in that respect. But now when you compare it to the competition, like the Hyundai Neos Turbo or even the Volkswagen Polo 1-liter TSI. Now both those engines are smaller, but they get a turbo, so they offer a little bit more power and they're faster as well. And they even drive a little bit better in my opinion. But the Swift still has a lot going for it in terms of comfort. There's a lot of space in the back as well, even for a person of my size. And I have sat in the backseat of a lot of Swifts before, because a lot of my friends have owned them. And when I was younger, I always felt comfortable, never felt cramped. And even now in the driver's seat, everything is more or less the same. This car feels very nice on the road, offers a very smooth, pliant ride. So in terms of practicality, comfort, and performance, the Swift really does tick all the right boxes. It also is very good on fuel efficiency now because the fuel efficiency has been increased by 2 kilometers per liter thanks to the new engine. The Swift has also always been an agile car. It handles very well. The older generation models did have a lot of more feedback from the steering wheel and was a little bit more stiff in the suspension. The new generation model did lose some stiffness and even some feedback from the steering wheel, so it has lost a little bit of that enthusiast kind of appeal to it, but still it's a very good handling car. Suspension is great on nice smooth roads. It doesn't offer the best absorption on bad roads, but nonetheless, this car really is a fantastic urban vehicle to drive in the city. As long as the roads are good, you won't have any problems. Even on the highway, the Swift has always been a good car you can cruise in and go on long road trips. Now with all these updates, the price of the Swift has gone up, but only marginally. It's about 25,000 rupees or so, depending on the model you go for. Prices start at around 5.7 lakh rupees ex-showroom and go all the way up to 8.4 lakh rupees. And that is the car that we are driving right here. This is the top spec variant that comes with all the bells and whistles. And that's a pretty steep price if you ask me for a car in this segment, but technology really plays a lot in that, and there are a lot of other cars in the segment that actually offer a lot more in terms of features and technology. But the Swift has one thing that those cars don't have, and that is the Maruti Suzuki badge on it. That says a lot. And not just that, the Swift itself has its own fan following. It's an iconic car, like I mentioned before. It drives very well, it's comfortable, it's practical, and it looks really good too. There's still no denying the fact that the Swift is an iconic car, as I've mentioned before. And it's always going to be that one Maruti Suzuki that's always going to be both practical and fun.